Hello students. Today let us learn about the vicarious liability of state and the concept of sovereign immunity in India. This topic has got so much importance as the old and archaic concept of sovereign immunity that king can do no wrong still haunts us, where the state claims immunity for its tortious acts and denies compensation to the aggrieved party. You all are aware that the doctrine of sovereign immunity is based on the common law principle borrowed from the British jurisprudence that the king commits no wrong and that he cannot be guilty of personal negligence or misconduct, and as such cannot be responsible for the negligence or misconduct of his servants. Another aspect of this doctrine was that it was an attribute of sovereignty that a state cannot be sued in its own courts without its consent. Traditionally, the duties of a state were confined only to the role of maintaining law and order, and its functions were mainly that of the police. However, with the ever increasing interference of the state in our everyday lives to ensure a welfare state, the traditional view of liability of the state cannot be accepted. Over the years, the courts in determining the liability of the state for wrongs committed by its employees have examined in depth the principle of sovereign immunity and the severability of the state's function into sovereign and non-sovereign. Now, in this session, we are going to analyze the relevance of the maxim "king can do no wrong" in the 21st century and the instances which led to the same. For that, we need to analyze the case of N. Nagendra Rao and Company versus State of Andhra Pradesh in detail, with counter analysis of State of Rajasthan versus Vidyavadi and Kasturilal Raliaram Jain versus State of Uttar Pradesh. Now let's look into the facts of N. Nagendra Rao and Company versus State of Andhra Pradesh. In this case, the appellant N. Nagendra and Company carried on a business in fertilizer and food grains under the license issued by the appropriate authorities. Its premises were visited by the police inspector, vigilance cell, and huge stocks of fertilizers, food grains, and even non-essential goods were seized. On the report submitted by the inspector, the District Revenue Officer, in exercise of powers under Section 6A of the Essential Commodities Act 1955, directed the fertilizer to be placed in the custody of Assistant Agricultural Officer for distribution to needy, and the food grains and non-essential goods in the custody of Tahsildar for disposing it off immediately and depositing the sale proceeds in the treasury. The Assistant Agricultural Officer did not take any steps to dispose of the fertilizer. The appellant made application that since no steps were being taken, the fertilizer shall deteriorate and shall be rendered useless, causing huge loss to him. Request was made for diverting the fertilizer either to the places mentioned by the appellant, as the demand was more there, or to release it in his favor for disposal and deposit of the sale price. But neither any order was passed by the DRO nor any action was taken by the AAO. In the meanwhile, the appellant's license was cancelled. After repeated requests, the collector ordered that the goods be returned to the appellants. However, the AAO did not comply with the orders. After repeated consultations with various ministers, when the appellants finally obtained the stock, it was spoiled both in quality and quantity. So now, procedural history. In the present case, the non-disposal of the goods seized under various control orders issued under the Essential Commodities Act 1955 caused a loss to the appellants. The trial court held that the state, while performing its duty under a statute, has been negligent and issued a decree for the payment of a total value of 1,06,125 rupees towards the damaged stocks with interest thereon at the rate of 6%. However, this order was struck down by the High Court of Andhra Pradesh, which decided the case on the ratio of Kasturilal case. The appellants appealed against the High Court judgment and thus approached the Supreme Court. The High Court granted certificate under Article 133 Clause 1 of the Constitution of India, as the case involved substantial questions of law of general importance. The issues under consideration in this case were whether employees of the state were negligent in disposing the goods. The second one, whether the seizure of the goods in exercise of statutory powers under the said act immunizes the state completely from any loss or damage suffered by the owner. The Supreme Court examined in depth the various principles of law and dealt with the concept of sovereign immunity in detail. The issue of whether the employees of the state were negligent in disposing the goods is one question that had to be proven on the basis of facts. Once the court was convinced that the state's employees were negligent, the issue that next arose was whether the state must be held vicariously liable for the acts of its employees. The issue was looked into the light of the principle of sovereign immunity. The state seized the goods under a statute, and if this function can be said to be a sovereign function performed by the state. Now let's take Vidyavati case. This is a landmark judgment in the determination of liability of state and lays down a distinction between the sovereign and non-sovereign functions. The facts of the case are like: the respondent's husband was knocked down by a government jeep car rashly and negligently driven by an employee of the state of Rajasthan and subsequently died in hospital. The trial court decreed against the driver but dismissed the case against the state. The High Court on appeal, disagreeing with the trial court, decreed the suit as against the state as well. It was held by the High Court that the liability of the state for damages in respect of a tortious act committed by its servant within the scope of his employment and functioning was the same as that of any other employer. It did not agree with the trial court's reasoning of classifying the act as a part of the discharge of the sovereign functions by the state. The state of Rajasthan appealed in the Supreme Court against the same. The Supreme Court first analyzed the liability of the state with respect to the Government of India Act 1935 and others, and held that the liability of the state post-independence is the same as that of the East India Company as held in the case of Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company versus the Secretary of State for India. The issue that arose for consideration was the extent of the vicarious liability of government for the tortious acts of its employees acting in the course of their employment. The next question that was to be answered was whether the act of driving the car back from the repair shop was an exercise of sovereign powers of the state. The Supreme Court upheld the view of the High Court. It held that the state must be equally liable as other companies for the acts of its employees. The concept of sovereign immunity and the rule of king can do no wrong are no longer applicable. The Crown Proceedings Act removes such unlimited immunities in the common law countries. Also, our constitution envisages a republican form of government, and one of the objectives is to establish a socialist state with its varied industrial and other activities. Employing a large army of servants, there is no justification in principle or in public interest that the state should not be held vicariously liable for the tortious acts of his servant. The case of N. Nagendra must be read in light of this case. In this case, the liability was imposed on the state and the concept of sovereign immunity was not adopted. The act of driving a government vehicle during the course of employment cannot make the state immune when it substantially interferes with the right of life of the citizens. The state today undertakes a plethora of activities under the umbrella of a welfare state such as transportation, trading, construction and others. It would be unfair to immunize the state for any mistake committed by itself or its employees during the course of these activities. In N. Nagendra Rao's case, as well as when the state seized certain goods under the Essential Commodities Act for public welfare, the onus fell on the state to ensure that the said goods are carefully preserved as is necessary. Thus, the state was held liable to pay the compensation for the loss incurred. However, the view in the case of Vidyavati was not upheld by the Supreme Court in Kasturilal Ram case. The court laid down its ratio on the basis of sovereign function of the state through police and distinguished Vidyavati case. In the Kasturilal case, the police authorities had seized certain goods of the appellants in the exercise of its statutory powers. The police seized the goods under suspicion and detained Kasturilal at Meerut. Later, when the police confirmed that the goods belonged to Kasturilal and that he had the title to the goods, he was let free. However, in the meanwhile, a constable of the police has stolen the goods. The police were thus negligent in the safe custody of the goods. As a result of such negligence, the appellant suffered a loss of the gold articles and thus sued the state to recover the loss. The trial court decreed against the state but was overruled by the High Court. The appellants approached the Supreme Court. It was argued in this case that once the negligence of the state is established, no further deliberation is needed. It was argued that the principle laid down in Vidyavati case must be applied as both cases included loss suffered due to the negligence of state employees. Nonetheless, the judges distinguished the case of Vidyavati. The power to arrest a person, to search him, to seize property found with him are powers conferred on specified officers by statute and are powers which could be properly characterized as sovereign powers. So, even though the employees of the state were negligent during the course of their employment, the state cannot be held liable because the employment in question was of the category which falls under the characteristic of sovereign power. Thus, the Supreme Court ruled in this case held that the state cannot be held liable to compensate the appellant as the act of the state falls under the sovereign function of the state. This view can nevertheless be accepted. The sovereign immunity as a defense can never be available where the state was involved in commercial or public activity and it interferes with the life and liberty of a citizen. The state must be legally and morally bound to compensate the victims for the wrongs committed. No doubt the state must have protection so as to conduct its activities for the public interest without being sued every now and then by the people. However, this cannot be applied to every case where the state fails to take necessary care to protect the interest of the public. The state cannot have the absolute power to act according to its whims and caprice. Also, the changing structure of the society, a democratic political system and an unbiased constitution cannot permit an executive to have absolute powers. The rule of law does not permit the state to be above law. The state vis-a-vis an individual must be treated equally. Today, when the functions of the state extend to regulating and controlling the activities of the people in almost every sphere, educational, commercial, social, economic, political and even marital, the line demarcating between sovereign and non-sovereign functions is largely disappearing. Hope this helped you in having a better insight about the subject. Thank you.